I'd been planning for a while to talk about all the Spec Ops things I was excited for after I did that Modern Warfare 2 adventure a while ago, and I still will at the end, but I had so many hopes and ideas for what it could turn out to be, and now I can't make that happy-go-lucky video when it's massively overshadowed by the very disappointing news we got back on Tuesday. I figured I wouldn't jump on it right away. I waited a day to think about it, to try to give a fair take. But if somehow you didn't hear, when they dropped the campaign trailer, pretty cool by the way, it's sad that the amount of effort that went into the campaign and the trailer is going to be reduced to a pretty cool by the way, but that's the way it is. Because it also came with the confirmation of a Spec Ops survival mode, but it is exclusive to PS4 for an entire year until October 2020, which may as well be forever with the typical life cycle of a COD game, unless that Treyarch COD 2020 mess goes exceptionally terribly, who knows. But I guess that won't even matter if the microtransactions kill off the game within 3 months. So, yeah, that sucks. My heart sank upon seeing that news, only a little bit because of the fact that I won't be playing survival mode, more so because there goes any positivity people had, there goes any good faith this game had built up with the no season pass and free maps and all maps and modes and missions at the same time on every platform. Activision isn't in the business of building good faith, unfortunately. As soon as they pull any move like this, people are gonna flip. Because we don't have to think back very far to remember what happened to Black Ops 4. So it's never a surprise, but sad to see nonetheless. Very unfair to the devs that poured years into all the fine details of this game. All it takes is a few business decisions like this for everyone to completely forget about all that. Like, I'd say the bigger deal right now is the info from the so far reputable leaker, the Gaming Revolution, talking about the plans for yet another bad supply drop system with new guns locked in there and tons of filler junk that nobody wants, and apparently there was a fair scrap or salvage crafting system that was in place like MWR, World War II, and it was ironically scrapped. We can hold out hope that it comes back in some form for launch, or that this information isn't entirely accurate, but I mean, if you're surprised by that news, I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's always disappointing to hear because you thought maybe this time is gonna be different. But all I can say, and I've been consistent in this message throughout all the periods of hype as well, if you are buying the game under the belief that it would be different, save yourself the energy and get out now. So honestly, it seems like most of the outrage right now has completely moved on from survival and is all about MTX, which I also agree is going to have a bigger effect on the game. But that being the eternal thorn in the side of COD is a topic for another time, or maybe a topic that doesn't need to be covered at all because everybody fucking knows what the deal is at this point. I'd say just stop supporting that supply drop system, but I don't even know who I'm saying that to. I don't think they're watching. I can't put myself in the mind of someone who feels COD points are a worthwhile purchase, but I know at the end of the day, I can't tell people how they want to spend their money, so that's that. Back to the PS4 exclusivity topic and Spec Ops survival, because it's a more interesting topic than me saying the same thing about supply drop guns bad. Even though that is the bigger thing to be mad about, there just isn't anything I can say about it. So, survival. If I were on PS4, I think I'd feel responsible to be as mad as possible, to stick up for my fellow gamers and talk about how shitty of a practice this is. But since I'm on PC and am part of the group getting dicked over, I feel like I'm allowed to try to look for the positive side. And you might say, well, what the hell even is the positive here? Well, there's what I talked about at the end of the week to review. I know the timing on that was hilariously bad, to be praising how they did away with the week of exclusivity thing. But that is still true, and if you look at it through the lens of this is the trade they had to make to get all the MP maps and modes and events and new Spec Ops missions to release at the same time for everyone, then I don't hate that trade. And that's going to come down to personal preference, but to me, if survival mode is the sacrificial lamb to get to play the entire rest of the game as one unified community, then I'll take it, because a week doesn't sound like very long, but for me at least, the hype for new stuff was always dead after a week. Again, I know it comes down to how much you value survival, but do also try the mental exercise of imagining it the opposite way. Imagine if in every previous year we got new content content at the same time on every system for free, no season pass, but PS4 always had an exclusive thing every year, like an entire zombies map that was only ever on PS4. Because I'd consider a single zombies map experience to be a fair comparison to survival mode, honestly, since survival mode I don't think of as high effort. It's just a spin-off played on existing multiplayer maps. Like if you were to try to compare the entire zombies mode to survival mode, that's definitely not a fair comparison. Then imagine that now, this year, they're changing it to have no more PS4 exclusive piece of content, but now, all new content updates are a week delayed on Xbox and PC, and you have to buy a season pass to get all the stuff that used to be free. I think a lot of people would hate that change probably more. It would feel like they're taking something away from PS4 and just making all the other platforms suffer and feel disconnected from the PS4 players. Obviously, no exclusivity would be best, but if I had to choose between those two options, I see this as an overall improvement. Things did not get strictly worse this year. They got worse in some ways and better in others. That doesn't mean I'm saying you shouldn't be pissed off, because they need to hear that people don't like this. And if this has led to you not buying the game anymore, I think that's completely justified. I know that I may just not be viewing survival as a big part of the game, and that is up for debate because we don't know much right now. First of all, I've seen some people saying that literally a third of the game is exclusive to PS4. No, that is not at all true. Only survival mode, Spec Ops as a whole, is not exclusive. The missions and the entire rest of the mode with the progression and whatever else they have planned is for everyone. The part we don't know and won't know until maybe the Spec Ops reveal on October 8th is just how significant the survival mode is. If we look to the TGR leaks again, he's saying survival makes up half of Spec Ops, with the missions being the other half. Then back to that down to clarify a bit that yeah, survival is a more basic mode in terms of developer time, and I do think that's more accurate. Assuming this is like what we've seen before, I don't think it's fair to call survival half of Spec Ops. The missions are by far going to be the more complex and detailed part of the game compared to tossing some assets onto a multiplayer map and letting you go endless waves. Infinity Ward is calling it just a sliver of the special ops experience. Obviously, damage control, they're inclined to want to defend their game, but I just find that to make more sense. In response to that, I saw some people saying, if it was really only 1% of the game, then Sony wouldn't have paid to have it. I don't think that's a sound argument. I think just getting to say that this mode is exclusive to us for a whole year is all they need. It doesn't matter how big it turns out to be. They just need a reason to say, buy it on PS4 to get this. The day after it blew up, Infinity Ward had a response, and they talked about how Special Ops is a massive experience that they've worked to create that is available to everyone, along with the entirety of campaign and multiplayer, and that Survival is an additional classic mode for PS4, and then went on to mention how they've made the positive changes of no more Season Pass and all other content coming at the same time on all systems. Obviously, framing is important. If it feels like a bonus additional mode on top, then it doesn't sound that evil. Whereas if you frame it as a core part of the game that was removed and locked away for PS4, not so great. I have to assume it was part of the Sony deal to make this announcement now as opposed to later to give people time to decide to get the game on PS4, I don't know. Because if Survival really is a sliver of the experience, I think it would have been far less damaging if they did their big Spec Ops reveal on October 8th, where they'd be showing off all the cool stuff that everyone will be playing, and then at the end, they say, yeah, for PS4 players, there's also this bonus mode. People still wouldn't be happy, but I would expect that to go a lot better than this, where the only thing we know about Spec Ops so far is the exclusive part, so we have no context on how big of a deal it is. Also, if they could have just made it 1 month and not 1 year, that also probably would have avoided all this. Really though, the debate over what percentage of the game Survival makes up doesn't mean anything, because you are who decides that. It depends how much you wanted it. If you were never gonna play it anyway, then it's 0% of the game to you, and these changes are pure upside. But if you were desperately looking forward to playing it with your friends, this would be a much bigger deal to you. Personally, it's a bummer, but I don't care that much about survival until we get more information that might make me care more. Like if there is some important progression tied to it, if you can't 100% the challenges or something because of survival being locked, or if it turns out to be by far the easiest way to grind out your camos and weapon levels, that would be pretty terrible. But as far as not getting to play survival mode, I don't care that much. And I know I actually might not be too alone there. It seems like by far more people are pissed off on principle rather than about not being able to play survival, which is totally where I am. It's annoying. It's frustrating that this happened and turned everyone's hype into anger, especially when you wonder what Sony's really getting out of this. This certainly doesn't make me want to go get the game on PS4. Never mind buy a PS4 if I didn't already have one. Thanks, Sony. Very cool. Everybody fucking hates you a little bit more now. Not that they're more guilty than Activision, I would say, for being the ones offering. You could argue that Microsoft would be buying it if Sony didn't. But if you look at Sony's recent behavior, I wouldn't call them innocent. Even if I were playing on PS4, I don't think I'd play much survival, both because it wouldn't be as fun without all my cross-platform friends, and I don't think I'd be making any videos about it since over half of players wouldn't be able to participate and wouldn't care. So that's all. It's sad to see this happen, but if it is the trade that had to be made for what we got, then I don't think this has been the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals. But that's me. I'm sure many will disagree. That was a long ramble. I'm sure I could have summarized my thoughts in a quarter of the time, but I like to take the time to explore multiple sides and some common counter-arguments to hopefully represent what people are saying, whether I agree or not. To put something positive in this video, yay, I do still have some of the hype I had before all this. I'm still excited about going back to a Spec Ops type of thing as our co-op mode for this game. I know zombies has always been the popular thing most people wanted, myself included back in the day, and I know tons of people are still big into zombies and would have wanted to see Infinity Ward take another crack at it. Everything I've ever heard about Infinite Warfare zombies has been positive. For me, at this point, I really didn't need another year of zombies, and even with survival thrown in the trash, I think this mode has a lot of potential. You might know I went back and played through Modern Warfare 2 Spec Ops, got all 69 stars, and it was a blast. I ended up playing it all solo and then going back through to play it again in duos. It got pretty challenging towards the end. One mission could take hours, but in a pretty fun way, where I learned the best way to do things and could get a little further each time until I finally beat it. But it is true that there wasn't much to do in that mode after I finished with all the missions, and there isn't much incentive to replay them unless I wanted to try for a better time or just because. What, you expect me to play a game for the satisfaction of improving? That's crazy. It's current year. You gotta give me some loot to earn, or what's the point in even playing? Joke aside, stuff like that really does make a game more replayable. That's why I say this mode has so much potential. Even if they didn't have more missions, which I'm sure they will, the leaks were saying stuff like 80 plus missions, but even with the number that the old games had, imagine it with unique challenges for every mission that would have you replaying with goofy strategies, beat it with only this type of weapon, beat it crouching the entire time, beat it without night vision, whatever, and challenges for setting good times on every mission, anything like that. Even weapon progression, making you scavenge for different guns and get kills with all of them. Like I remember I found a TMP on the ground in one mission, and that seemed really rare. It'd be cool if I had to go grind out some kills with it. There'd be a whole knowledge aspect to figuring out where you can find a certain weapon in each mission. And they have mentioned with Modern Warfare how they want it to feel like one single game where progression is unified. What if you could get rare loot, for lack of a better term, for completing missions several times, where higher difficulties give you better odds at getting something cool? Maybe some weapon blueprint or character customization that is unique to that mission that you could get if you played enough. I'd love to go through that and collect everything. Those are the elements that could turn this mode from a fun thing to play through once or twice to something with a ton of replayability that you want to get your friends together for, keep coming back and challenging yourself. I could see it being more enjoyable and addicting for me than multiplayer, but that remains to be seen. I'm sure I'll be playing both modes regardless. Of course, I'm not going to overhype myself imagining what it could be, because I'm sure it won't be all of those things. But it was sounding pretty cool from what they've already said, like it being a very beefed up version of Spec Ops, and they've confirmed they'll be supporting it post-launch with more missions being added. If we were to go way back to the leaks around July, I think, all the rumors about how there would be 80 plus missions and how it takes place in an open world hub where you can run around with friends and enter missions from there, plenty of secrets and hidden caches of ammo, kill streaks, and armor, and completing missions will earn you cash to spend on gear and better equipment to take into future missions, which all sounds pretty sick. Even if none of that is true, it'll clearly be a bigger Spec Ops mode than we've ever seen, and no doubt there will be some form of progression or challenges, and I'm looking forward to it. So on top of telling me what you think about the survival bullshit, what do y'all think about Spec Ops? Are you excited to see them revisit a mission-style co-op mode, or were you hoping to see something else? I personally can't see how zombies would have fit into the whole contemporary military theme of the game. They've said that a few times, and I agree, but I guess you can shoehorn zombies into anything. It doesn't have to make sense. Or can you not even fathom being excited for anything in light of recent events? And this was a wake-up call to get the hell out of this game before more shit hits the fan, because it will, and I think running as far as you can is a completely reasonable decision. Basically, if you're expecting Activision to suddenly turn a new leaf, it's probably time to head out, because you aren't going to be happy. But if you want to buy it to play the campaign and sample some of whatever else you want from the other modes, it is still just $60, which I think is a good price for the amount of entertainment you get. You don't have to engage with any of the bullshit. For me, there are still plenty of things I will get enjoyment out of in this game, so I'm sticking around for that. But next year? Who knows? Without Captain Price, I don't know if they'll have a strong enough hook to get me into another year of this. Always the same predictable negative news. It's exhausting to have to be mad all the time about the same things, when being mad clearly isn't going to change anything. Even boycotting the game isn't going to change anything, because the vocal minority that makes up the Reddit community simply lacks the wallet power. I'd love to just be positive and love the game alongside other people who love the game. Clearly that'll never work out when Activision's involved. It's going to be critical how they handle MTX this year, especially with all the rumors pointing to COD 2020 not being too hot. But alright, we'll see. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.